Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the Brothers Grime podcast. And now, your hosts, Brandon and Randall Witherspoon. Enjoy the show.
And we're live.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, man. It's a beautiful day.
Oh, marvelous.
I certainly am quite thrilled to see the sunshine.
Oh, yes. I mean, I've been kind of out of commission for this whole spring transition, unfortunately. Yeah. But I've been able to get outside a little more recently, and it is amazing, and I love it.
That's great. Yep, it's a beautiful time of year, that's for sure.
Possibly the best.
Good time to get out and enjoy nature and not have to wear thick, bulky clothing.
Yes.
You can still be quite comfortable.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I always think about in the wintertime, like I literally forget what it is like, what it feels like to be able to go outside and not be cold. You just get so used to being cold all the time. And then in the winter, I'm like, dude, what's it like to be cold? Or in the summer, I mean. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. It's just funny how quickly we forget. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, it's great because, I love nature and being out in it, as I know you do too.
Of course.
So it's awesome when you can do that comfortably and wear a minimal amount of clothing.
True. And the best part about spring is it's not too hot. A. B. The bugs aren't going crazy yet.
Right.
Like midsummer,
Absolutely.
Obviously. So it's kind of the best time of year, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I do love fall, but
yeah, fall's
for different
beautiful.
reasons.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, now that it's nice, everyone's out. I don't know if you've been to any parks recently or anything, but they're getting pretty crowded. All the hiking trails, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming out of the woodwork and going and enjoying that, and everyone's out walking their dogs and stuff like that all the time. Which, speaking of dogs, as you know, I love dogs.
And I don't.
I know, but I do love dogs.
But you do love them, yes.
I always have. Mm-hmm. Assume that I always will.
Perhaps.
Barring
some unforeseen incident.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's, I kind of want to talk about dogs for a little while.
Yeah.
Obviously they're pretty intelligent animals.
Totally.
Most of them anyway. Generally speaking, dogs are fairly intelligent and I think it's pretty much agreed, that dogs can understand human gestures, right? You're able to teach them tricks.
Oh, yeah.
And
Come,
all that kind
go,
of stuff.
Sit, roll over, all that.
And so that's pretty cool that you can train dogs to do lots of different things. I mean, they use them for all kinds of different things. You have all these service animals, whether it's helping people with certain problems that they have, anxiety or whatever, to, canine dogs sniffing out drugs or whatever, But, they can also identify bad people. This is actually backed by science. There was a group of Japanese scientists in 2015 that conducted a series of experiments with dogs. And their findings were pretty interesting. And it was cool to move beyond just a common belief to actually something that's backed by science.
Concrete,
Yeah. So one of the first tests they did was basically to see how in tune dogs are to human emotions and stuff like that, and also facial expressions. But their first test that they did wasn't really pertaining to any of that. It was actually just testing a very basic thing. So here's how it went for the most part. They basically took a dog, lots of dog owners, and the experiment was the owner had a container filled with treats.
Okay.
And since we've already established dogs, pick up on gestures that humans do, physical hand gestures, the owner would point to the container filled with treats, and the dog would respond to the pointing gesture, come over to it, they would open it, receive the treat.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did this a few times. Then the owner repeated that exact same test without having any treats in the container. So he points to the container. The dog comes over happily, expecting, anticipating its treat, opens it, nothing. The dog just looks at it, looks at the owner, walks away. They did it a second time. He came to it with hopes that there would be a treat in the container. Once again, he was let down. The third time was the last time that the dog actually responded to this. So the fourth time, he, tried to repeat the process, took the container out, set it on the ground, pointed at it. Dog just stared at him and walked away.
Too smart.
So he identified, he broken trust, basically. He's like, yeah, well, you're not credible anymore because you've tricked me multiple times. So I'm just not even going to waste my time coming over there because, based on my previous bad experience with this thing, this test, I no longer have any trust in you. I'm not going to come over there, So they, it's interesting that they, have that kind of way about them that they can, basically collect data and information from past experiences and decide whether or not they're going to, make a logical decision. Well, I don't think that there's anything in there, so I'm not going to go over there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's almost like a continuation of like Pavlov's experiment, which that whole thing was to prove that you could get them to keep coming to something even if there's nothing there. It was the whole thing was like,
right.
What it was like every time he rang the bell, he gave him a treat or whatever. And then until eventually he was just ringing the bell, they would come running to him, but they didn't get the treat.
Right.
But they would still come, even every time they heard the bell. I guess maybe this is a continuation of that.
Yeah.
To where it's like, how long will they continue to do that
before
until
they decide
they don't believe you anymore? Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, but yeah, I find that kind of stuff pretty intriguing. Another test they did was basically to see how dogs can sense and understand human interaction between humans. Like, so they had like an
friendly
owner.
Versus not. Yeah.
So they had like an owner. That's kind of where I was going with the identifying bad people. So
gotcha.
They did this other test where basically they had the dog owner there, and they had a group of strangers come up and, so let me back up a little bit. The owner would ask a group of strangers. He had the dog in his, on the leash right there or whatever. And so a group of strangers came up and he asked them for help, and they basically were rude and disrespectful and denied him the help and kept going. And then they had a group of strangers approach, and he asked them for help, and they helped, and they were friendly with each other and everything like that. So meanwhile, the dog's sitting there just completely analyzing the situation, looking at everybody's facial features and, sensing emotionally how they're feeling and that kind of stuff. So after this test is complete, they had the group of strangers come up that were rude and disrespectful and attempted to give the dog a treat. The dog refused, would not accept the treat from them, and in fact, it just completely ignored them and walked away.
Wow.
Just wanted nothing to do with them.
That's incredible.
So he totally sensed that, there was confrontation going on between the owner and that group of people, and, basically sided with the owner. Like, hey, I don't want anything to do with you. You didn't want anything to do with my owner. You didn't help him out, so F you,
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, pretty wild. And then so, after that, the group that was kind and helpful came up, gave him a treat. He wagged his tail, walked right up, loved him, everything was cool.
Wow.
So they definitely are in tune to, all that kind of stuff, which I find pretty interesting.
Human interaction. It's crazy.
Really cool. So they're definitely very in tune. And also they've done tests that kind of prove like that dog owners that are like kind of timid and not confident in that kind of stuff, they actually kind of like almost pass those traits on to their dogs, and they can actually kind of adopt your behaviors.
Interesting.
In certain aspects, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. I mean, if they're, I guess it's just influence, right? Like whatever their main influence is all the time. If they're influenced by you negatively because your self, confidence is low or whatever, or if you're a mean person, your dog tends to lash out more and all that kind of stuff. Pretty crazy.
That makes sense. Like it's basically the same thing with kids. The same concept with kids.
Absolutely.
Obviously, if you get a dog as a puppy and it only knows you,
right,
and you're the human it's around all the time, it's gonna think that that's normal human behavior and just be like that too.
Exactly.
Like, just like your child, obviously. If you're mean, your kid's probably gonna be mean, and if you're not, obviously, that sort of thing. So, but it's cool that it's interesting that they don't just have like their own personality regardless.
Right.
Like you could be a terrible person, but it could be the nicest dog. You know.
Well, they do.
I guess it's possible, but
yeah, they do. I mean. Definitely, dogs have different personalities. Sometimes you just get a stubborn dog. Sometimes they just are very difficult. And that may be attributed to low IQ, or some dogs just aren't that smart, just like people.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I mean, it's harder to teach somebody like that, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess like what we talked about before, like stubbornness, but like
Yeah, I mean, if they can't comprehend what it is you're trying to get them to do, then they may not
They're
be,
not
be
gonna do
being
it.
stubborn. They may just, be too
I
stupid
literally
to figure
don't
out
know
how
what
to do
they're
it.
talking about.
Right.
Yeah, or they could be stubborn,
Yes, they could
or
be.
like a person because like they don't fully understand like the big picture. Like they don't see the
Right.
big picture. Like I want you to do this. They don't understand why, so
Right.
they're just like no.
You're
It's
right.
like,
Resisting.
but there's a reason why. Like, they don't know the reason, therefore they say no.
Yeah.
So it could be
So
something.
my dog that I adopted from the Humane Society, for some odd and unknown reason to me, he is absolutely terrified to enter my basement. He will not. He will not. I've tried to almost force him just to see if I could get him to do it and coax him with treats. He will not go into the basement. I mean, he'll enter the basement from the basement door, but he will not go down the steps. And it's not a fear of steps because I have steps all over the place. And he goes down them and up them and no problem. But he, for some reason, when I open the basement door to go down to the basement from my main level, he will not go down there. No idea why.
Strange.
Freaks him out. So maybe he was kicked down a set of basement stairs or
Yeah,
something as
that
a small
definitely
pup.
could have
I don't
been.
know. But he has some sort of fear.
That's
Or-
that's insane.
Apprehension. He doesn't want to go down there. Really weird.
It's crazy that dogs can develop that
Yeah.
based on previous experiences,
Right.
just
Yeah,
like
that's
people.
what I was talking about,
yeah,
yeah.
that's crazy. Like, it's obviously again a sign of intelligence because they learn from experience. Obviously, they're like, I go near these steps, I could fall down them or get kicked down them. I ain't doing it again.
Yeah, I mean they're very interesting animals. Like they definitely crave human attention.
Yeah,
Most definitely, which
yeah.
sets them apart from a lot of other animals. And I like that about them. And they definitely develop a close relationship with their owners. I mean they love you. It would appear to be.
Definitely.
I mean they definitely like my wife's dogs that she's had for a long time. They have like separation anxiety with her. Like when she leaves, man, that you can tell they act differently. They're bummed out. They're sad. They're, nervous, and they're, totally anticipating her return every second that she's not there. Yeah. And likewise, when she returns, they're thrilled to see her, same, my dog the same way with me. So it's kind of cool that, humans and dogs, animals like a dog can have that sort of relationship.
Yeah.
And, you can almost understand each other in this unspoken way, I find it really, really cool.
It is interesting.
But yeah, other cool things with dogs, they, I don't know if you know this or not, but they can, it's been proven that they can actually identify cancerous cells in humans. You hear about that?
I have heard about that.
Really wild.
Actually.
And they do that, what I understand, they do that because cancerous cells actually have different smells than non-cancerous cells. They totally smell different, and that's how they pick up on it.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
And because of that, because they have such what's the word I'm looking
Keen
for?
sense of smell.
They do, yeah. Their noses are amazing, yeah. And they can also differentiate between different types of cancer and can be trained to pick up on certain types of cancer and identify and let you know in multiple different ways. Really wild, but it's not a stretch to believe they can do that,
yeah, well, if they can identify it, then
that's the same way that they identify almost everything, in that
drugs
way.
and
Like,
all that stuff.
absolutely. So yeah, that's pretty wild.
That's
And
incredible.
they can also sense epileptic seizures and diabetic shock, which is pretty cool. A lot of people have service dogs for children that have epilepsy, and not just kids, but a lot of parents will purchase dogs like that, that are trained for that way. It's pretty wild. So like the change in blood sugar levels will actually, from what I understand, change the smell of your breath and even your skin.
Wow.
And that's how they pick up on those changes and can alert you to, hey, your levels are off. You might be about to go into diabetic shock or seizure or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. That's crazy.
Yeah. Definitely wild, man. They, I've heard things about dogs being able to pick up on change in weather and stuff like that before it happens, you know,
Mhm,
and not
I've
just
heard of
dogs, other animals too.
Mhm.
But that and like earthquakes, sensing earthquakes before they happen, and all this kind of crazy stuff. And that I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah.
I have
They
no
can
idea. I haven't
smell
looked
it.
into that. Right. I don't know, but that's pretty fascinating stuff to think
Yeah,
about.
that's wow.
You know. Yeah, they're just cool, man. I really like them. I have a lot of fun with my dogs. But yeah, so I've heard a lot of stories about dogs, like when you start talking about like paranormal and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You hear like dogs, you know, were like barking, you know, at an empty room for no you know, what appeared to be no reason, you know, and then like come to find out their house is, you know, supposedly haunted or whatever, you know,
Sure.
and like, you know, just makes you wonder what else is out there, and maybe they can see things and perceive things that we can't.
They're in the
knows?
fifth dog mention.
Fifth dog mention, man.
Dude, maybe they're like maybe they can travel between
It's
dimensions.
very possible.
Or like they can see both dimensions. Like they can see the fifth dimension
they
at
can.
all times. Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
who knows? Who knows what those little rascals can see?
Yeah, that's true. Now, are they actually colorblind, or is that like just a wives' tale thing?
Well, I don't know that anyone could ever possibly prove
And
that.
how would you possibly
You
be able to
can't.
know? Yeah.
I mean, I'm not up to the latest experiments on that particular topic,
Mhm.
but the last time that I read anything about that, they were pretty confident that they were in some way, you know, just based on different tests that they'd done, you know, and everything like that.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody who's way more intelligent than us figured out a way to figure it out.
Yeah, or at least, you know,
Well, be pretty sure,
Yeah,
confident, or
pretty
whatever,
close.
Yeah, I guess maybe you could like think of like have different colors of something that they like or something, you know, or I don't know, who knows.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to think of it, but
Yeah, it was something like that. Basically,
Yeah.
you know, they just things that were, you know, different colors really didn't have any effect on how they reacted to it or whatever, and
Right.
just lots of different things like that.
this bacon is green. Will you eat it?
Yeah, but pretty wild stuff, man. They're definitely beneficial to the human race
Yeah, I'd say
for
that.
sure. In
Yeah.
many ways, you know,
Oh yeah.
companionship,
Mm-hmm.
all the things we just talked about, you know,
Protection.
yeah, protection, yeah, lots of good benefits that dogs bring to the human race,
And have.
and that's
been
why I
doing
love them.
Yeah, I mean, well, a whole nother thing, obviously, like, we go on forever about, like, how long humans and dogs have been interacting, you know? I guess almost forever, pretty much.
Yeah, and one thing, all these tests that I was talking about, they actually, I read that they were starting to repeat these tests with wolves and just see how and if there was any difference in their reaction and their behavior as opposed to domesticated dogs. So stay tuned for that. I'll be interested to.
I would be interested to find
see
that
how
out
the
as well.
wolves reacted.
Yeah.
And if anyone died during the process of testing.
Depends on what country the
Right.
experiments were
Well,
conducted
the
in.
ones I was referring to were conducted in Japan. So.
Well, the dogs, yeah, we won't go there, but it is, someone's going to be dying, put it that way. But anyway, that would be interesting because, well, there's got to be a difference in the wolves and domesticated dogs because domesticated dogs hang with humans way more, you know what I mean? So maybe they're more in tune to humans just
Right.
because they're literally around them all the time, maybe. Whereas a wild dog or a wolf or anything, maybe, I mean, obviously they're not around people ever, so
Right.
I don't, you know, well, as far as like if your behavior changes,
Yeah.
you know, dogs get nervous or whatever, they can sense when you're upset.
I'm sure that.
you know what I
I'm sure
mean?
that. Well, yeah. Oh, well. The other thing I was going to talk about was the whole common belief that dogs can smell fear. Right.
Right.
That is another thing that has been scientifically proven.
Interesting.
Because basically, when you are afraid, well, there's multiple reasons. One potential way that they can detect fear is, like I said, facial expressions and just your gestures and your behavior. You know, they're really in tune to that. So obviously, you're not going to have an ear-to-ear grin on your face if you're trembling in fear.
Sure.
So that's one way they can pick up on it. The other way is when you are afraid, there's chemical reactions going on in your body, and you release these pheromones that they can actually physically smell.
Right. That makes sense.
And yeah, and it makes them uncomfortable and nervous or whatever, you know. They react in their primal way or whatever. And they, another thing that they were talking about is dogs really hate inconsistency.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It freaks them out. It makes them anxious and all kinds of stuff, and they can act differently. So, yeah, that's why a lot of times they'll act differently when you introduce a new person,
right.
to them. You never know how they're going to react because it's not consistent with their normal day-to-day routine. And so, yeah, it's really important for them to have a good, consistent routine. Supposedly.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the point I was trying to make with the wolf thing. Is like the dog knows what's normal. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it has a standard by which it can compare.
Exactly.
So if you're acting abnormal, then obviously it's aware of that.
Right.
As a wolf, it doesn't know anything about you. It's,
Sure.
Is it normal? Is it not?
Your
I don't know.
Potential food.
Yeah, exactly. They don't care. They just want to eat you.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'd be interested to find out.
I'm, fairly certain that these experiments they were talking about conducting on wolves would be done on slightly domesticated wolves that are in like a zoo or something. I highly doubt they're going to go out into the wild and start trying to test wolves, so, there you go.
This group of people is going to approach you.
They're not nearly as domesticated as even a wolf in in a zoo is nowhere near obviously domesticated like a common household pet dog would be, but. Yeah. It would be, I guess they interact with them, fairly regularly, feeding them and what have you. So they probably are used to seeing people. And I mean, basically, well, think about it. If you're a wolf and you're in a cage and behind glass or whatever, all you do is stare at people staring at you all day. So they're probably actually more in tune to humans than you might think. But yes, and so I don't know. I don't know if that's even really, I don't even know if I see the point in even conducting those experiments with a wolf. It's like, it's whatever. That's where dogs came from anyway, right?
And we have dogs.
Yeah, right.
So it's
so we have a slightly domesticated wolf, and it's slightly showing the same reactions as a fully domesticated dog.
Yeah, exactly. A wolf thing. Yeah. Well, something I just thought. The wolf is always looking at the faces of people at the zoo that are afraid.
Right.
So it thinks that's normal.
Right.
So if you walk up to it like smile, like, hey, how you? It's going to bite your jugular vein. Like, it thinks that's abnormal.
Yeah.
Hey, little buddy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but people, I guess, aren't really afraid if they're behind a glass or a fence or cage or something, point. So they're probably not. I mean, maybe a little kid or something.
Oh, dude, just thought of something brilliant.
Yeah.
And like an artistic project, like a piece, be like people's faces at the zoo. You know what I mean? So like have like a hidden camera, like from the perspective of the animal, that like just takes a picture like every 10 minutes or something, because like new people come up. Like what face do you make typically when you're looking at these creatures?
You probably really start to feel for those poor animals.
I don't care. Yeah, like I don't like just thinking about it myself. Like I don't know what kind of face I would make if like I walk up to a baboon or something and be like, whoa, pretty wild. You know what I mean? Like, do I have a scared look? Am I laughing? Like, I don't know.
Baboon, probably laughing.
True. I guess it depends on the creature.
Indeed.
That would be interesting. Anyway, somebody go steal that idea because I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah. Don't we have like a cousin that works at the DC Zoo?
Yeah.
On our mother's side of the family.
I don't know
if we could gain access to the CCTV.
There we go. Oh, then we could, we could look.
Yeah, that place is filled with cameras.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we do. Like some kind of second, third sort of
She definitely does, because I remember like when they had that pregnant panda bear there that just had a bunch of baby pandas or whatever. Like we went up there and she was like trying to get us in or something.
Yeah, that was like
to see the pandas
many years ago. I don't really remember that much, but there does exist a human being that is somehow related to us that works at the zoo.
Yes.
We know that much.
We got our foot in the door.
Yeah, at least used to work there. I don't know. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, man.
That'd be an interesting. Okay, well, let me just ask you this: what's your stance on Okay, well, first of all, I think most zoos, the animals that are there are like animals that were like harmed or something that they're like they bring to like
rescued or
they
whatever.
Rescue and nurse them back to health and then release them, whatever. That's totally cool. I'm all about that. But prior to that, when people used to like just kidnap these animals, basically. Well, I pretty much just gave it away. But like, where do you land on the zoo as far as like morally speaking? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. Well, obviously, it's a way for the zoo to make money. It's only about,
Well, yeah.
money. And I mean, yes, I'm sure, probably a good portion of that goes to, taking care of the animals and rehabilitation and all that kind of stuff, which that's cool, I guess. But do they really need to be eye candy for a bunch of freaking people? I mean, that's really not necessary. I mean, I guess it's cool and it's not cool at the same time. Like, I don't really know exactly how zoos operate and how long they keep the animals and what they do.
Me either.
I really don't know. So I would have to know that information first before I could give you my opinion, I guess. But yeah, I mean, do I think it's cool to, capture a wild animal and stick it in a cage? Well, hell no.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Same thing with fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, you have people that like are like, super anti-hunting and that sort of stuff, whatever.
Which I'm in no way in that category.
Yeah, no, me either. But like, to me, it's like capturing an animal and forcing it to live in a really small cage for its whole life. It's like way worse than just killing it for food.
And eating it. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, to me, it's like people should be. I'm surprised more people are anti-zoo than anti-hunting. You know what I mean? But like I said, I think now pretty much usually they're just like rehabilitating the animals and stuff. But like you said, that could be done without thousands of people walking in and staring at them all day. But I wonder how much harm versus good that actually does for the animal by bringing it into captivity like that. It's not in danger. Doesn't have to use its instincts, really.
Right. And then when you do release it, I mean, I'm assuming that when they're released, they're not really released into the actual wild. It's probably like a wildlife management area. You know what I mean? That's kind of segregated from any, the actual wild. So,
could be.
I mean, which they'll still have to rely on their instincts, but it's there probably won't be any real predators there for them or anything like that.
Less chance of them to come to harm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, maybe that's just for a little while, and then
who knows?
I don't know.
I don't know the process.
I'm not sure either, but
hopefully it's good.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. Like, I like animals. I guess, I'm not like a super animal lover like some people, which is fine, but obviously you shouldn't be cruel to animals.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't believe in cruelty towards anything or anyone.
Any form of life. I agree.
But, I do believe that animals were put on this earth, for multiple different reasons. And do I think that there's anything wrong with hunting? Absolutely not.
Right.
Killing a wild animal for food? No. That's fine. Do I think that you should torture the animal? No.
Of course not.
It's two totally different things, not even the same ballpark.
I agree 100%.
But and then you have like the crazed like PETA folks, going and breaking into laboratories and releasing wild monkeys with carrying all kinds of diseases, and the list goes on. I mean, they're obviously doing way more harm than good. It's crazy.
No,
they're responsible for lots of problems, and I do not condone that organization whatsoever. Sue me.
I think it's obviously people. They equate two things that aren't the same. Obviously, if you find yourself at any point torturing any other form of life, stop, because you're not doing something good.
And it's like, they're totally against like experimenting with different types of like, medications and stuff like that, involving animals in those experiments, which here's my thing, if we are ultimately holding human life at the highest priority, and we're using these animals to conduct experiments on to, try to find cures for different diseases that could possibly kill humans, and we're trying to benefit human life on this planet, and we're testing out different medications to see if it can cure them, then, I'm not opposed to that personally. People, I'll probably get screamed at for it, but that's, whatever. That's how I feel. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I feel.
As long as you're doing so in a way that's, not, like I said, torturing the animal,
of course.
Whatever. But it's like, that's, I don't know that I even want to talk about it anymore, but that's how I feel.
But and basically the only other thing I'd say is like, just from the other perspective, because I know people who think the other way, it's like, basically the concept of the fact that the animal doesn't have a choice, basically. So you could get people to sign up and be like,
Yeah, that's true.
they make the choice and say, yeah, this might hurt me, but hey, if it's good for everybody, let's
the
do
greater
it.
good. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas with the animals, it's like they have no choice.
Yeah.
You're just being subjected to these things.
That's true. But
so there's that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I see where people are coming from when they're saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I would just have to agree to disagree. I'm not going to argue anything like that with anybody.
Right.
You're going to feel how you feel, and that's fine. And I can listen to what you're saying and understand logically as to why you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't feel that way, and I can't really help it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and also,
but I'm not like hating people that feel that way. I believe everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I respect your opinion. As long as you have logic to back it up with.
And some people are more predisposed to being like animal lovers,
sure.
more so than other people.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like, yeah, pet, cool. I could take it or leave it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I have a cat. I love my cat, but it's like,
sure.
if we didn't have a cat, I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I love all life, obviously, and animals included. And so, in that sense, I guess you could say I'm an animal lover.
Right.
But I feel the same way. Obviously, I value human life more than I do animal life. And I don't mean that in like a bad way. I'm just saying, like, say there was a fire in my house, okay, and I have an infant sleeping in a room across the house, and I have a dog sleeping in a room across the house. Who do you think I'm going after first?
Right.
My kid, right? The child, the human.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put it in those kind of perspectives, that's what I mean. I'm not saying that I wouldn't go in and rescue the animal,
right?
But certainly not over my child or any human for that matter.
No, I agree.
And that's how I feel.
I feel the same way.
I'm sure there probably exists a human being that would go after the animal first. I wouldn't doubt it. There's got to be one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't feel the same way either. Yeah, I mean, ultimately though, when it really boils down to it, it's like, I think most people would probably save the person over it. Like,
I think so too.
Especially in like an intense situation. Like say you're walking down the street with your kid and a dog starts attacking your kid. It's like,
right.
You're going to shoot the dog to save your kid or not? You know what I mean? Like in those sorts of situations, I think most people would probably go with, let's save the kid.
So. I would hope so.
I would hope so as well. But, it's easy to say something in a speculative way than when you're actually faced with situations. You know what I mean? I think that goes with, I feel that way about a lot of things. And I think, politics, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Like, you have one group of people that says, hey, this would be awesome, and let's try to do this thing. Like, yeah, it would be awesome, but maybe it's not attainable, in this reality or whatever. You know what I mean? So
it's subjective to the circumstances surrounding that.
It's like you have like celebrities that are like already multimillionaires. Okay,
right.
Well, it's easy for them to be like, oh, we need to help these people, blah, blah, whatever, to like maybe lean a certain way politically because they're not suffering. They don't. They're already rich. It doesn't matter to them. They're going to be fine either way. So basically,
and that's not to say that they're, bad or self-centered or anything. It's just that maybe they just are viewing it from a totally different perspective and haven't really put themselves in it.
And they're able to.
And that's not even saying that all celebrities are even that way. It's just saying it would be far easier for somebody who's financially well off to
don't have to be a celebrity at all.
Exactly, not even a celebrity for sure.
If you have plenty of money, you obviously have a lot less concern than somebody who is living paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean? They're not going to be as stressed out. At least financially anyway. So if that part of your life is freed up, then you can start to think about other, things in a different way because you don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? So it's easier for them at that point to be like, well, why not do this? And how about let's go do that? You know what I mean? But versus the person who's living paycheck to paycheck, sure, it'd be awesome to go help out all these people and do all this, but I don't even have food. You know what I mean? So, obviously everything has to do with perspective, and situations that you're in and all of that. But basically when it comes down to the animal thing and to the politics thing and all of that, I think that probably the best route to go is just like, well, first of all, be thoughtful, be logical and all of that, but also like, don't be so quick to just jump and say, this is this way, and you're terrible if you think the other way. You know what I mean? Because maybe you've never been in a situation where you're faced, like I said, with the animal and the kid and all that kind of stuff or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. And I mean, it's just like when you asked me my opinion on the zoo,
Mm-hmm.
it would have to be an all things considered opinion.
Right.
And I don't know all the facts, so I can't really have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm, eligible to have an opinion because I don't know it all.
Yeah.
You have to consider all things.
Yeah, all the information
Absolutely.
available. Yeah, which leads us to what we've said before is like, try not to be ignorant, or at least try to self-educate about as much stuff as you can.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're able to then form opinions on things.
And anytime I say, I believe in being open-minded, that's what I mean when I say it. I'm not saying that it isn't, that I disagree that you should have, your own opinions on things and your own, moral, standards and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say, remain open-minded, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Just, make sure you're, thinking about it, all facts included, and keeping an open mind to all the possibilities, before you're, quickly, judging something or formulating an opinion, a biased opinion that really doesn't, without taking in all the facts and info that you need to really be able to assess it and make a decision.
Yeah, in a rational way.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's pretty much impossible not to have a bias of some sort, toward most things. Maybe not everything.
Well, naturally, yeah.
Naturally. You're just naturally going to have certain things based on your upbringing or whatever.
Sure.
But you can learn to try to get rid of that.
Set that biased view aside and be more open-minded. That's what I mean when I say it.
Strive to look at things more objectively,
precisely.
And also don't waste so much time becoming super passionate or angry or whatever about things that are purely subjective.
Yes.
Because ultimately, like you said before, it doesn't matter what I say or what you say. You feel a certain way, I feel a certain way, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you going to waste your life, frankly, arguing with somebody about something that they're never going to change their mind about?
And that's why I refuse to argue with people.
Right.
I really do. It's fruitless completely.
It is. Yeah.
I absolutely love debating things with people logically. And when I say debating, obviously I just mean exchanging our views and discussing them in a logical and calm and adult manner.
Here's what I think, and here's why.
Yes, here's exactly. Here's what I think, here's why. What's your stance on that?
Right.
Very interesting.
Yes.
And we can talk about it and why we feel that way, and that's cool, and that's great. And I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to argue with you about it. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. That's how you feel. I'm not going to try to change your mind.
Right. Make another me.
No, I don't want to.
Right.
I want you to be you.
Exactly.
I'm interested into why you are you.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to try to force anything down your throat or try to make you think the way that I do, because you're not going to. You're going to think how you think, and I'm going to think how I think.
Yeah, which is what makes life interesting. Because if
Individualism.
if everyone was exactly the same, everyone would probably just kill themselves, because you'd already know how you feel and I feel. It's like, okay, well, there's no new information to be learned here. I'm out, So, which brings me to something else that I've mentioned before, like maybe not on this podcast, but thinking about, like you said, debating, which is, there's a place for that, and that, like you said, in an adult manner and all of that, exchanging ideas, whatnot. But how do you feel about like the presidential debate, like the presidential candidates when they debate? When it comes down to it, they've gotten through the primaries and all that jazz.
Personally, I think it's completely pointless, and I'll tell you why.
I feel the same, but go ahead.
Because I don't even know if I want to say this live, but yeah, I'm not going to say it.
You don't have to go in too deep, but I'm just saying, like, in general.
I think it's pretty pointless for the most part.
Yeah, I agree.
Because really, it's just like a pissing match, you know what I mean, between the two candidates, and they're just trying to put each other on blast and make one another look bad. And I just don't. How could you enjoy watching that? First of all,
I don't. I know, especially I mean, I don't agree with any of it, but the most recent one, a few years ago, obviously, it was just kind of like, dude, come on. It was, honestly, I truly was literally embarrassed.
Yeah.
As an American.
Oh, certainly.
Honestly. Upon watching it, and I was like, this is
it's ridiculous.
absurd,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, ultimately, Okay, you got one person who represents one point of view, another guy or woman who represents a completely opposite point of view.
Mm-hmm.
They're already entrenched in their views.
Certainly.
And so here's it. So it's worse because not only are those people as individuals already entrenched in their views, but they are representing two opposing groups of people.
Right.
So they have that pressure on them to not say something that could be construed, against their own group.
Like what's the purpose? Are they trying to sway people who are on the fence
I don't know.
to vote for them? Because obviously,
Yeah. I guess, but it's like but then the people watching are already at that point. They know who they're voting for. You know?
Maybe not. Maybe that's
most,
what they're trying
though.
to. Well, yeah, you would hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, exactly. Like the people that are there representing the political party that they side with,
they're not just going to all of a sudden be like, hey, you know what?
Right,
I think you're right.
Because they definitely believe in whatever political party they believe in for a reason,
If they even do.
Right,
because
if they even do.
That doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Because, again, they're representing a certain group of people.
Yeah. Well, it certainly doesn't even, political party means nothing to me. Republican, Democrat, whatever. It makes no difference. I could care less what political party you associate yourself with. To me, that's the most least important thing out there, for me when I'm deciding who I want to vote for as the president of my country, right? Because it really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe once upon a time it didn't. I mean, there are generalized Republican, standards and things that they believe in, and likewise generalized, democratic standards. But it doesn't really mean anything about the individual. For the most part, they could associate with the Democratic Party and be a certain way or not, So to me, I could care less, there's certain things I would assume about the person based on the political party that they associate with, but that really doesn't, you'd have to, it doesn't prove anything, really. It doesn't mean anything.
No, it means nothing because ultimately they could just be making it up and just pretending they agree with this person just to get votes, Which I mean,
it's not like happens. It's uncommon for there to be many presidents and presidential candidates to boast and promise things that arguably they had no intention on doing to begin with. You know what I mean? There's obviously lots of corruption when it comes to politics, and that's why I don't really want to get into it because it's also a very controversial topic.
And frankly, I'm to some degree uninterested because it doesn't really ultimately matter in my opinion. Yeah, but because again, people just want power.
Right.
Ultimately, I'm going to say whatever I have to say to get votes. There you go.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. And do they even care? Probably not. It's like, oh, well, now I'm the new leader of the free world as the president of the United States, most powerful country in the world. I'm the most powerful person of that country. Right. The ultimate power trip. Literally.
For sure.
Gosh, I mean, I don't know. It's just we don't have to go down that road, but. To me, it's kind of crazy that position even exists.
I know.
It's kind of wild to think about. The king of the world, almost. It's kind of crazy.
But who's behind that?
Well,
alleged king.
True. I mean, I don't think that they have near the amount of power that they claim to have.
A lot of people think they're just a puppet who's pulling the strings, man.
Well, and I mean, ultimately. I mean, I probably couldn't say this as fact because I don't have literal facts to back it up. But just think about it this way: like, money is power, obviously. So, if you promise somebody X amount of money
in the material world,
yes, in this realm that we are living in, that we can see anyway,
that we're partially existing in.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, so like you have a political candidate, whatever. I don't care what side, whatever. It's like, but then you have, it's like, so they can make decisions that affect the whole country, which affects the world, blah, blah, blah. But then you have these corporations, whatever, individuals, whatever, have a lot of money and they say, hey, I feel this way and I want the country to be like this. I'm going to give you this amount of money if you promise to do this thing. It's like, oh, okay, sure, why not? You know what I mean? And I believe everyone has a price. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
it's like, eventually somebody will be like, well, okay. And they'll say, sure, you're going to give me this amount of money. I don't care. You know? Because ultimately I can just move to the Bahamas and never see anybody again. And, buy my own island or whatever.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
A terrible thing.
It is. It's a shame. I think they should do away with the parties. I think they should do away with all of that kind of stuff and just be like, you have to run as an individual. Everyone's an independent,
Right.
basically. That's how I think it should be, because I think it would then force people to have to actually be true to how they feel,
Right.
express how they feel. Because like we said before, you already know this side or that side feels a certain way. So all you have to do is just say the right words, use the right terminology, and bang, you got the vote.
Yep.
Which is why, instead of a debate, I think what they should do is, and it'd be very simple, and I think possibly more fruitful and possibly more helpful, instead of two people who are already entrenched in their own ideas fighting for the world to watch and making fun of each other and stupid stuff like that. Instead of that,
childish behavior.
Yes. Instead of that, all you got to do is this. You have 2 nights. One right after the other. It could be whatever. It doesn't matter. It could be one right after the same night. It doesn't matter. But basically, you could send out like a poll to the whole country and say, what are your top 5 questions or top 10 questions you'd like to ask this candidate, whatever. And so they get a general idea, based on all the polls, and they, okay, generally, law of averages, whatever, we had this many people ask this question, they got 10, 20 questions, whatever. Things that are relevant, things that are important, that the people want to know because you took the poll, okay? So, A, we're asking questions that the American people want to know the answer to, okay? So that's a good thing. And so one night you have somebody just literally just go through, read those questions. And it's just that person. There's no crowd. There's nothing like that. It's just the candidate and the person asking the questions sitting in a room like a 60-minute style. And they just ask the questions. And then they just answer them however they feel.
Right.
And then the next night, or you air that one night. And then the next night you air the other candidate, same exact questions. And there you go. And then you would know exactly how they feel. No arguing, no stupidity, no mudslinging. Just, this is how I feel about this issue.
Yeah, or do them simultaneously, but separate. That way they don't have time to listen to those questions and,
Yeah, right.
And because they might have very and formulate opinions.
You'd have to somehow sequester
it would have to be,
them.
it would have to totally be, impromptu, I think.
Yeah. You'd have to. Yeah, true. Because then you can't allow one person to have more time to think about it, anything like that.
That would be unfair.
Yeah, an unfair advantage. Yeah, exactly. So you could have literally at the same time, just 2 different locations.
Yep.
And
then just air them.
And then air them separately. Yeah. I don't know. To me, that just seems like it makes way more sense than 2 people just arguing.
Right. Yeah. No.
Because it doesn't answer
who the hell wants
questions.
to listen to that shit anyway?
Yeah, not me. Well, you know it. And the whole classic political answer. They never really answer the question anyway.
They just dodge most of them.
Yeah, they just take this whole circular thing and then never answer your question. They're like, oh, by the way, you're a moron.
The ultimate waste of time.
Yeah.
It itself is a giant waste of time. So what does that make watching it?
Right. Exactly. And I think the crowd aspect is super unhelpful.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're going to have one group supporting one guy and then the other supporting the other. So naturally, just like a comedian, they're going to try to get crowd reaction.
Oh, for sure.
So they're like, oh, by the way, where were you in the hurricane of 92 or something?
Right.
This idiot,
it always turns into a smear campaign,
dumb.
man.
It's so dumb. I don't like it one bit.
No, I'm with you.
It's unhelpful and poorly represents our country, I believe, personally.
No, I agree.
You got these other countries that are watching it like, oh, yeah,
right.
one of these 2 idiots is going to be running their country. Either way, they're screwed, and that's how I feel. But yeah, it's wild, man. I don't know. Maybe one day it'll change. Who knows? I doubt it.
Yeah, doubtfully.
Yeah, let's start a petition. All you podcast listeners out there.
Yeah.
If you agree with me, start a petition.
Oh, I'm sure all of our UK listeners will strongly agree.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Oh, man. So, anyway, dogs. From dogs to politics, man. You're bound to hear it all. Hear it all right here.
That's
on
right.
the Brothers Grind podcast.
Well, we got to talking about zoos, so I had to just...
And we're all animals, so
That's right.
I guess it's all,
It's one big zoo,
That's
brother.
correct. And you're a dog, you salty dog. You.
I never really knew what that meant.
I still don't know what it means. Salty dog. Sounds funny.
I don't feel comfortable being called it. I'll tell you that.
So I'm going to keep calling you you salty dog.
You salty dog. I'll be your salty dog. And how's it go? It's a song.
Oh, Lord.
If you be my something. I don't freaking know. I don't know. It was like 50 years before I was born. So.
Speaking of salt and dogs.
Yes.
Makes me think about the sea.
I do love the sea.
It had to have originated there, the salty dog thing, right?
I think it is like a pirate thing.
Or sailor thing or whatever.
Oh, sailor, yeah.
Well, pirates
It's a
arguably were
pirate
sailors.
thing. Yeah, it's a sailor going, well, they are sailors.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, they're just not affiliated
Outlaws.
with a certain government. Yeah. They are their own government.
That's right. Sounds pretty cool.
Dude, being a pirate would be awesome.
I would totally
and
be a pirate.
Also terrible at the same time.
I would be a pirate right now.
Right now? You'd be a pirate?
Yeah.
Okay, if you could go back in time. Okay, I got it. Okay, speaking of outlaws, if you could be an outlaw in any time, in any sort of outlaw, what would you be?
Wild West.
Nice. So not a
For
pirate.
sure.
Okay.
No. I mean, pirates are cool, but not that cool.
Right. They're not that cool.
They're not 6-shooter on the hip cool, man.
That's true.
They're not kicking the swinging doors of a saloon open and just cracking a bottle over someone's head because. Come on, man. How fun would that be?
That'd be awesome. Yes, Out West outlaws are pretty awesome.
Yeah. Doesn't get any cooler than that, man.
It's true. Even the sheriff was cool.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone
Even the
was.
sheriff.
Even the sheriff, which is very rare
Yeah.
in this day and age. But even the Wild West sheriff was cool. Like, everybody was cool back in the Wild
yeah.
West.
Did you ever watch Gunsmoke?
Yeah.
Every morning at 5 a.m. before school?
Dude, we had to, man. You had to get your daily Gunsmoke. Now, okay, Gunsmoke, okay, I always kind of get them confused. There's kind of a bunch of them.
That was with Miss Kitty, right?
I don't know what's happening. But anyway, Gunsmoke, I think that was the one that you really liked. Did you ever watch Bonanza? Were you ever into Bonanza?
No.
Or is that a different thing?
It's
Well, I
totally
mean, I know
different.
it's different, but like, I guess it's a similar plot, I guess.
Yeah, no, Gunsmoke was John Wayne. And
John Wayne?
Yeah.
You sure? I think it was some other dude. He
Was
looked
it?
like John Wayne.
Maybe
yeah.
it wasn't John Wayne.
I don't think John Wayne was part of a TV
Marshall
series.
Dillon or something? What the hell was his name? His
You would
alias?
know. I don't.
Oh, man, I can't think
I
of
never was really into it.
it. James Arness.
Ah, gotcha. Played, what was his name?
Matt Dillon.
Marshall Dillon. Marshall Matt Dillon.
So I was right.
You were right about the Marshall Dillon part. Not the John Wayne.
John Wayne.
Yeah.
Was he even a real person, or was he just like a storybook character?
I don't even know
I'm
anymore.
pretty sure he was real.
I think so.
What the fuck is even real, though?
Yeah, well, that's true.
John Wayne.
Did the past
Doesn't
ever
even matter
actually
if he
occur? I
existed.
don't know.
No.
What is the past? Does it? And here's the other thing: does it actually matter? Like, does it matter if John Wayne existed or not? Like,
Not to me directly.
Right. I guess his offspring. It would matter quite a bit. The classic Back to the Future situation on your
Oh,
hands.
no. Give me a milk. Chocolate.
Yes, dude. George McFly, one of my favorite characters of all
Marty
time.
McFly.
I don't care so much about Marty, but his dad,
Whiny
George.
little bitch.
Really, his dad was the total nerd, but I always thought he was the true hero of the movie series.
Nice.
Oh, what's his face? Oh, Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
He's kind of an odd cat. Like, I mean, I don't know him personally, but I just know from Back to the Future.
Seems that way.
Seems like he would be kind of a strange character. But, oh, yeah, so he was, I do know this. He was going to come back for the second Back to the Future movie, or they wanted him to come back, but he demanded that he get paid like this insane amount to come back.
Really?
Yeah, and they were like, no. So he's just not in the movie.
Nice.
Yeah, but his character's in the movie, if you recall.
Yeah.
But he's like hanging upside down, remember? Because he's like, it's like the newfangled back thing
That's
or whatever.
right.
But it's not Crispin Glover.
It's been so long since
Side
I
note.
watched those movies.
Yeah, because it's some other dude. It doesn't. Well, he's upside down, first of all, and secondly, they have the the old person makeup, whatever. So
Right.
I never knew that until I found that out watching bonus material.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he demanded some insane amount of pay, even though he was like a secondary character. I don't know. Pretty odd.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Stardom got to him.
Money is power. See, Crispin was trying to take over, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah. Oh, favorite Back to the Future character? Go.
I don't know, man. Biff. No, I'm fucking with you.
Everyone's a closet Biff fan.
I don't know. I really don't know, man.
Oh, Lord.
I'm having trouble even recalling all of the characters. It's been so long since I've seen it.
Well, mine's definitely Doc Brown. Well, actually, it's not. It's George McFly. But like I just previously stated. Well, you got Doc Brown, you got Marty, you got Biff, you got... that's pretty much it.
Right.
And then everyone else is unimportant.
I would say, without a doubt, though, in all seriousness, okay, the man who stood on the front porch in that one movie, and he's like, "We ain't selling you here."
Oh, okay. I know, let me quote it. Okay, I know exactly
Whatever
what you're talking about.
I love that guy.
It's Back to the Future Part 2 in the alternate 1985. And Marty jumps through the window of what was his house
Right.
in the reality that he knew, only to end up in bed with this little girl. Like accidentally.
Right.
And like the dad comes running in with the mini bat.
Yep.
Remember, he flicks on the light.
So threatening.
He's in his boxers. And he says, "You tell that realty company we ain't selling you here. We ain't going to be terrorized."
Yeah, that guy.
I love that.
dude. My favorite character. Whoever he
Definitely one of my favorite parts. I don't know. Yeah, I don't no idea who he was. His name or anything. I don't even know if he was in any other movie ever, but even if he wasn't, that alone was worth it.
Well, he wasn't afraid to stand up for his rights.
You got to fight for your rights.
Even if he was wielding a youth-sized baseball bat.
It wasn't even it was like one of those like
decorative ones that you would get as a trophy, right?
Yeah, like a novelty,
Like a foot and a
thing.
half long.
It was. It might as well have been like a billy club or
Like,
something.
why not just drop the bat and wield your own fists at that point? They're probably much more intimidating. He was a pretty big guy, I think, too.
Oh, man. That was a great moment in movie history.
Definitely. We're going to have to just have an episode where we do nothing but talk about movies. We've seen so many.
Oh, that's
and I love
true.
them.
We've seen many, but we've also watched very few many times.
That's true.
Yeah. Which is arguably better.
Well, you miss so much the first time.
Yeah, you do.
Watch it the
You
second,
definitely do.
third, fourth, fifth,
So
90th.
yeah. So for some reason, our dad, doesn't seem to understand or agree with the concept of watching movies more than one time. I don't know why. He's like, "Well, I already saw it, so why watch it again?" But like you said, you miss so much,
Right.
You know, so the first time you watch a movie, it's like, obviously you're just like following the plot.
Right.
And that's pretty much it, you know. And then when you go back and you already know the plot, then you're able to pay attention so much more to, because you don't care. You already know what happens. So then you're like, maybe just subconsciously, you're picking up on these other things because you don't care. So that is the reason why you should watch movies multiple times. And I like reading books over again too. Sometimes.
Oh, hell yeah.
Did you miss stuff in books?
Oh, hell yeah, baby.
Angie saw that the other day.
What, Key and Peele?
Well, yes, but she finally saw the Terry's episode.
Oh, man.
She
Definitely my favorite.
So I assumed she like
That's the fireboard, those mother jammers.
So I just assumed she'd seen it. So we were watching Key and Peele the other night, and like the Terry's thing, like sketch comes on, I'm like, classic.
Yeah.
And she's just like glued to the screen. I'm like, "Have you seen this?" She's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, well, sit back, my friend," because
The hat hair. Hair hat, I should
it's
say.
literally the funniest part of the whole sketch is his
man.
hair. His hair.
If you guys haven't seen the Terry's skit by Key and Peele, do yourselves a huge favor and
please
just stop listening to us right now and go watch it.
Get on YouTube, type in Terry's, Key and Peele, and just you will not be.
You won't be the same ever again.
You won't be the same. That's for sure. I was gonna say you won't be let down, but you definitely won't be the same. Oh Lord, Key and Peele is amazing.
Yep, we're huge fans.
Absolutely, geniuses, comedic geniuses. in my opinion.
Oh, indeed. Yep, gotta love some raw creativity and humor.
Yeah, absolutely. Sketch comedy.
And so before we end this episode, I'd like to remind you guys out there listening that if you enjoy our show, please give us a review and rate the show on iTunes. It helps us out big time.
Absolutely. We appreciate those of you who have been listening, and we hope you enjoy the content as much as we enjoy bringing it to you.
Hey, if you made it this far, thanks so much for tuning in. We really hope you enjoyed the show.
Stay grimy.